Hi and welcome to KunstHausWien. My name is Stephan Kuss. I'm the Associate Curator of KunstHausWien. And we all would like to welcome you with a big heart for our artist talk today. The artist talk on the framework of the exhibition, The Belly Knows Before the Brain. It's also a very glorious moment for us all today because not only are we going to talk about the exhibition, but we're also going to present our new publication, which just came out today. And yeah, we're going to talk about it later. I would like to introduce a little bit who is sitting here with me on the compost. I already introduced myself. This is my colleague Veronika Hackl. She's the head of our outreach and art education department. And together we're curating here exhibitions in Projektraum Garage. And the other two people are lovely Fuzzy Earth. It's Tekla Gedeon and Sebastian Gschanes, with whom we have collaboratively worked on this environment, on everything that's happening in here. And maybe you would like to talk a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's your expertise, and yeah.
Okay, hello. Can you? Yeah, that works, right? Yes, thanks for having us. And Tekla and me, we are both artists with not background in fine arts, but backgrounds in architecture. And I have a background in gardening and landscape architecture. And so we're not the classical artists, I would say. But all our topics revolve around ecology somehow. We always involve a lot of the topics of plants, food as well, and agriculture. These are the topics we mostly deal with our work. And we do this since a couple of years together. We're based in Budapest, but work outside the country as well, often. You want to add something to our introduction? I think I covered it all. And thanks, Stephan, for having us. And Veronika.
I think we are all here on this pile of compost together, no? So I think we are. This is the way we work.
Sorry, it's really compost. We're sitting on bags of compost.
You revealed the funny little detail already in the beginning of our talk. I like that. So we will come back to compost, I think. But yeah, we are here. Jointly on this pile of compost because of our joint journey of this last year that we were working on this exhibition, The Belly Knows Before the Brain, that you can see around us as well. So Tekla, did you want to start to talk a little bit about the process that we have been going through until reaching to this day?
Yes. So it's been a very interesting journey. We started to plan the exhibition actually 1 year ago together, the four of us. It started with a very intense 1 month residency that we spent here in Vienna. And without knowing much of what will this collaboration evolve, we started a shared thinking process. At the time we were very much interested in tracing how, as Basti said, we were working with agriculture, and we were very interested in how we feed soils and fertilizers. And with that research, we came here, and to kind of understand how could this topic be local in a city. That's when we started to think about compost in a way that what is the nutrient of the city, and it's what everyone here eats, and what's the leftover of it, what's those vegetable peels. So we became really interested in what is the city contributing to this topic. So the very first trip that we actually made together, and I think it was very much influencing the entire journey and the design process of this exhibition, was that we went to visit the composting infrastructure here in Vienna with Emma 48. And it was a very interesting process to learn about that. While Vienna has one of the best infrastructures in Europe to compost, we still learned from the people who work in the composting facility that there is sort of a knowledge gap and an emotional disconnection to the idea of decay, to the idea of trash. That there is the practice of throwing the vegetable scraps, but then there's a disconnection of what happens after. What is the process of decomposition? And it was very exciting for me to hear the guys working at the composting station to refer to their millions of coworkers, the microbes, as partners, so that they had this daily connection, they had that smell, but the city not necessarily the citizens. So we felt this connection, and we started to build on it through conversations together. So this was maybe a start of our work together.
Can I maybe add to that, because I think we can translate it very in a picture very specifically, that we really brought a little bit of this compost with us at that day. I think I would really like to draw this picture. So it was a very cold winter day. It was in January, so we were all freezing, packed up there in between of big lines of compost, and it was steaming, and we could feel the heat, and we were talking about the topic of composting and about all the microbes working there with the experts, while really being in this steam, still freezing, but a little bit both of it. And we had this, very interesting talks, and then we came back to the office, and actually some of the colleagues that are here today also went with us. So, and once we came back to the office, we really felt that we didn't feel like it, but we saw that we left traces. So there was a little bit of compost in our shoes, we had heavy boots, and so we left some traces of compost in the office. And once we got back in the car, because it's very far away in the outskirts of the city, and we came back, we actually just realized that we smelled also like compost. And I think this image is something that we really carried with us during the work on this exhibition, to see also about this connection that you were talking about, the connection and the disconnection that we have to these sites and also to these processes that work there. And so I think it's quite visible here, and we also have some compost here in the exhibition now. So it's we really took a little bit of this very far away, very industrial for some kind, also composting into the midst of this exhibition.
Yeah, I think something that's quite interesting is how we actually have worked together. Like in the project space Garage where we're sitting right now, Veronika and I have a very open approach on how we deal with exhibitions, how we understand exhibitions, and this is why we felt we really would like to invite Tekla and Sebastian to join this joint exploration on the topics. And I have the feeling this last year it was a lot of inspiration on both sides. I remember sharing texts with each other. Like in the very beginning, we were talking about, I think you were still, back in January, you were very, very deep in research on phosphorus, and we kind of started the whole process with phosphorus, and we shared knowledge. You shared your knowledge with us, and Veronika and I were both super eager in, this is going to be a great exhibition about phosphorus, and today here we sit on compost, and it's a lot about compost, and I think it shows very well that how each and everyone kind of influences each other, and how we learn from each other. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about how this process was, from how to move from phosphorus to compost, actually.
It might sound a bit confusing to what has phosphorus to do with compost, but probably I should reach out a little wider to explain this, that you also understand. I mean, we all understand because we talk since 1 year about that, so we are super in it, but a lot of people are like, what are they talking about? But I mentioned before that we work a lot with agriculture, and we from the beginning very interested in this industrial agriculture. Like one of the main questions is like, why do we need these big systems, this heavy machinery, these controlled systems, and everything has to be monitored to get the top efficiency and farm the reddest tomato and the biggest, hollowest paprika and stuff like this. And we did a lot of trips into various practices, greenhouses and high-tech farms, and everywhere they use industrial fertilizer, obviously, because industrial fertilizer is keep this world running, so it's feeding us all. And these industrial fertilizers, so you have these three main big components of industrial fertilizer, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And the nitrogen and the potassium, they can be produced somehow, manufactured. I'm not going to explain this now, but they can be made. Whereas phosphorus is a finite resource which appears in mines on various parts of the planet. So it's basically you can compare it with fossil fuels. We mine it, and one day it will be over. The really interesting fact about that is that this 80% of all these deposits are in one place of the planet, which is in the Sahara, in a region, southern Morocco, western Sahara. This is also a war zone because people fight for this resource. They want to be the owner of the resource because it makes you incredibly rich. At the same time, this element, phosphorus, is one of the most crucial elements on this planet for all living beings, because DNA is made out of phosphorus, and every living being has a DNA. Every tree, every bacteria, we, dogs, birds, everything has DNA. So we all need this phosphorus. And but phosphorus is not only appearing in this rock, which is being mined, but also comes in compost. So we don't need this really. If we would just take more care about our resources and be smart about reusing them or composting or transforming our trash, we could regain some of it. At the moment, we trash everything. We flush it down the toilet, we throw it into burners, we burn it, and the resource is gone, basically. That was the research in a nutshell. So we ended up with compost, which is a trash somewhat, but also is an incredible, interesting resource because it's not only, it's also food. It's food for a lot of different organisms, and a lot of it's some sort of, it's a meal, it's a feast that organisms transform trash into something valuable. And yeah, in Vienna, compost is a big topic.
I think it's also interesting that we ended up talking about compost because it's another type of collaboration that we have as humans, as a city, but also with the microbial world, with the bacteria. And this also defines how we work together, that there is this decentralized knowledge sharing, we started to pile up information, and this kind of working together like composting knowledge and consciously working with different species became really part of this 1 year. We actually started, within this residency, we started a sourdough starter here in Vienna, just that we can bake bread for a dinner that we had together. So since then we started our garden actually within this year. So all of these processes that we did throughout this year all built up into this exhibition, not necessarily as a ceramic piece, but into the practice of how we think about that, how we write about digestion. This was born out, this bodily practice that we did in a daily level. And we also thought a lot about what does it mean for our bodies to connect to this microbial world. We read a lot about what does it mean to be porous, how does our gut work? Like these kind of conversations were really shaping the exhibition. Do you want to add to that?
No, I just to add that you also created a piece of work that is called Multi-Species Gathering, and that is in fact a pile of compost. So this is really it's compost that we feed here at KunstHausWien with the leaves that fall from the tree that is behind us, if you see it, if it's lighted enough, and you can also actually take care. So this is also, it doesn't end in this room, it doesn't end also with the four of us, but it's actually a beginning of a mutual taking care of each other and of other organisms. So all of you and everybody who comes to see this exhibition is also invited to take care of this compost, to mix it up, to get air into the system, because it just feeds, the microbes need air in order to work. And so it's really this multi-species gathering that you brought to this courtroom to our courtyard.
Yeah, and I think like we work very collaboratively together, and we started with two people in Vienna who had this idea to invite someone to come together. So we were 4 human beings sitting together, and we spun this huge net of other people that were collaborating with us. At the end, approximately 50 human parts and even more non-human parts. So now this is this huge network of big collaboration where we all kind of learn how to learn things new, learn how to understand things new, and we try to figure out what actually this belly of the universe is that we're actually sitting in here right now. So this is not just an exhibition space, this is more of a maybe metaphorical space of a belly, this very speculative thing of a belly. I don't know, what do you think? What is this belly of the universe? Because we tend to never answer this question like with a total strict answer. I think I would be super interested in what you think, what this ominous belly of the universe is, and why is it even a belly?
Yeah, I remember we had long discussions about the belly, the 4 of us. What is a belly? Like, who has a belly? Again, I'm coming from this gardening side, so I did a lot of composting always, and I learned about compost through this way, that actually it's some sort of magic, you know. You just pile up all your trash, and then you have to mix it, you need to put some water or less water and air, and you just wait and it transforms somehow. But then later I learned, there's fungus and worms and bugs in it, but also bacteria. And bacteria chew this these parts apart into smaller pieces, and I was thinking of we have a belly, a worm has some sort of a belly, but the bacteria doesn't have a belly in that sense. Still, it does eat and chew and digest this, so it somehow has a belly. And so what the bacteria does, if it likes something, it attaches itself there, and it creates this slime around it. So it has a belly outside itself, some sort of. So it has a belly. So it is something bigger than a belly. But then you could see also the compost itself is a belly. And also if you scale out, this is super confusing because it's all is digested. So the belly is something a piece of digestion or a tool of digestion. But also if you scale out, if you look at the planet, the whole planet is digesting at the same time. Like we are just the food who is being digested by the planet, and if you in 1 million years, it will be something else, not us anymore, but another creature. And that's the outcome of this whole digestion. That's for me the belly of the universe somehow. It's in all scales of digestion.
I think we started from this notion that is actually also the title of this exhibition of the belly knows before the brain. No? So we were talking about the gut feeling, about what is it actually that the belly knows before our senses really grasp it, or what is about our embodied knowledge. And we were starting a lot on this, the notion of the human belly as well, which is also still a miracle to us. And still science is researching a lot now on the on the connection between brain and belly, brain and gut, and the digestive system, and how it really affects our health, but also our psychological health, and our all of our system, our immune system. And still, even there, then we do not understand a lot of it, but we do have these images of these little organisms that work within us and that are actually feeding us while we are feeding them. So when we eat, we feed our microbes that are feeding us. And then from this, we came to talking about the belly of the universe, and it really helps to see this also as this part of the bigger organism, and to really, as you said, like just put it outside, and you have the belly. Then suddenly we are inside the belly. So you have this belly within us, the whole world, the whole galaxy. This is actually not so much graspable for a non-scientific human being, or we just have this imagination about it, and then you turn it outside, and then you can have an image of how all the organisms are connected. And you were talking a lot about this also, that the belly is not inside of us, but also our skin is also the belly, no? So this is maybe something that we can also apply to ourselves, but also to this room that we are sitting in. So welcome again in the belly of the universe. You're part of it.
I think it's also very interesting to think about the belly of the universe as all the infrastructures, the technosphere that we inhabit. It's all part of the belly now. It's not natural as you think about it. The belly is not inside us. And in this belly, we are not only that intellectual creatures as we like to think about ourselves, but we are just matter. We are matter that decays. And how can we accept or think about ourselves as we think about a peel of carrot that we compost? Because in a planetary scale, the human is a carrier of minerals, and so is a carrot. And we will also decompose, and new creatures will be born of us. And this is a very interesting challenge of how we position ourselves and our bodies in the larger cycle of materials. And this is a question that we tackle in this exhibition and also in the public program through many workshops where we imagine that where did this material that we carry come from? It's coming from a deep time, millions of years ago, and it will go somewhere in the future. And what is our responsibility of material carriers? Like, we carry that ancient matter in our body every day, and it will go somewhere. And right now it's going to the sewage. So how do we deal with these questions? What is the responsibility? What do we want to do with these things as persons? What responsibility do we have for the microbes that live in us? Because we have as many human cells as microbial ones. So it's not I am, but we are really existing together. So these questions are very important and interesting to us.
Yeah, I think what's actually quite interesting is that we here in probably coming from religion, we always think of like a life cycle from birth till death, and then there's like no afterwards. When actually, if we think, if we take this human part out of this equation, if you say like, we actually live on a planet that's not just centered around us humans, but we're just a teeny tiny part of all of those cycles of that are redeveloping themselves over and over, then we just become matter. So we get born, we live, we die, we decompose. our bodies become this matter that enriches the soil very much, that actually gives the motor and the fuel for new lives to grow. And I think if we start learning to think of cycles of regenerations like this is exactly the point where the belly of the universe actually starts working out the feeling. And this is where we also can kind of unlearn this belly term, that we can let it go, that this is not this organ inside of us, but belly is all, we're all belly. And yeah, we're actually sitting right now here in this belly. And yeah, if I just look around me here, I see a lot of artworks. Those are breathing rocks, you call them. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about those breathing rocks. What are the functions? Where does the name come from? And yeah.
Yeah, it has to do with bacteria, but I talked about bacteria so much already. Maybe you should talk about the bacteria now.
Breathing rocks. Yeah, we really like this term. It has a lot of different stories and memories came together in this term. One of them is that this year I received a family heirloom from my grandmother, which some of you know from the workshop we did before. That I got a cabbage stone, which is a river stone that my grandma used to weigh down sauerkraut. It was just an average stone, but once you start using it for making sauerkraut, it stays with you for years and for generations to come. And we don't know exactly who had it first, my grandma's grandma, or like where does it come from, but there is this river stone that goes from generations. So this year, because we worked with this topic and I thought about my grandma, so I received this stone, and actually in that breathing rock, there is another rock breathing inside, full of life. We made sauerkraut in that pot, and it's now fermenting inside. So we really like this idea that there is a rock that carries recipes, that carries bacteria from one fermentation to another, that then we can use. And after the fermentation, it has a smell, it keeps that sort of atmosphere, so we will keep using that. And it was very special to have it the first time here that we used it, because at home I do not have such a big barrel to put the stone in. So we really had to build this ceramic vessel, and I needed that 20 people helping to make so much sauerkraut. This is not an everyday practice to make this amount of food for us. So that is one story. And the other story, we are also very fascinated that how really the bacterial world is running this planet. So when Sebastian talked about the mine in the Western Sahara, this is also a kind of compost of different bodies, because phosphor is actually the fossilized remains of ancient marine life that then bacteria chewed on, and through pressure it became rock. So what we do, we use these, we dig up and excavate this planetary burial ground in a way. That's why fossil energy. But also the very first creatures were bacteria. And deep down in Earth, scientists find actually bacteria that breed rock. So in places where there is no food, no water, there is just rock, bacteria can still survive and they consume rock. So they really digest everything around us. So this idea that there is this invisible life consisting of millions, uncountable amount of mouths that we don't know about, and they run the planet, and they breathe rocks, and everything around us lives. We wanted to work with this notion. So the artworks that we created, they are different ceramic vessels. They work like organs of the belly in a way. The tall one next to Stephan is a fermentation vessel for bokashi compost. So from when we made the cabbage, all the organic waste that we had, the cabbage that we couldn't use for fermentation, we put it there with a layer of bacteria, and now it's fermenting, and compost tea is coming out to our compost, which then we will use for fermenting soils. So it's actually full of bacterial life, and that you guys are sitting here with us now, you're breathing this in. So this bacteria is now inside you, also the lactobacteries from the fermentation, and also the bokashi bacteria. You carry it, and maybe you also brought something to us from your homes and your world. So it's about this sharing and really breathing each other's worlds inside us.
And I think when we talk about the breathing rocks, we are again a little bit at this topic of how we even talk about these things that we might not even understand yet, or we are trying to understand, and we approach from our knowledge now, but we want to expand this knowledge. And as we were talking before about the belly, that we still use this very human term of a belly, or maybe belly exists also in dogs and in a lot of creatures, but still a very human-centered term. And then we talk about breathing rocks, because this is also a very we are breathing, we know that we live because we are breathing, and the way we understand how these microbes actually consume the rock is that we say that they are breathing the rock. And it's even hard to think about something breathing rock, but it's easier than thinking about how it consumes in a different way, no? And I think this is this very much shows your approach on how to digest these scientific knowledge also, and how to expand the knowledge in a very haptical way, and in a way that we can all imagine something and go a little bit beyond what we know until that day.
Yes, and I think all of this conversation and how we built up the exhibition then extended with how we then entered maybe the publication phase, because when we talk about digestion, eating, and the belly, we identified that there is not one way of knowing, there is not one way of understanding. So also the whole publication actually was kicked off by the idea that the four of us are going to write an essay about what is the belly of the universe, which has many answers. We didn't answer it completely or at all, or many ways.
Yes, I think that's the beauty of this whole project, that we don't give like one answer, we give many answers, we give many possibilities, and we leave this space and we leave this room for everyone else to think, what could this belly be, what is planetary digestion? And we were very, very eager to hear from other people as well, because we throw around those big words of what is decay, what does it mean to become porous, what are body stones, for example. So we had this idea that we actually need this information for other people to join us in our conversation, to join us in our journey. And so we invited a bunch of people, actually it was I think 12 people approximately, to form this publication here together with us, to bring this multitude of voices, this multitude of understandings. And so as Veronika is showing you, this is our brand new publication. It's on one hand, it's an archive of what we did the last year. It collects images from our first compost visit to images of work in progress, images of you building up the exhibition, building up all of the ceramics, to this one. Yeah, we had this idea of let's write this one collective essay. How can this even work if 4 people write on one big text? I think it came out pretty well. And and we kind of dealt in different ways in what planetary digestion could be. And so this publication was designed by Extraplan, and Emanuel is here today. So this also the design of the publication is following, I would say, a strong concept which goes through every part of this exhibition, because it's also built up as a compost. First of all, it was our work of somehow composting knowledge. We were collecting everything we could gather from all of our collaboration partners to form this big pile of trash, this big pile of knowledge that is now filled up in the publication. And
I think if I may say something to the book or about the booklet, I think for me it was quite helpful making it, because this whole topic is incredibly confusing. It is about digestion, it's about food, it's about rocks, bacteria, compost, fertilizer, and
deep time.
Yeah, exactly, deep time. It's super complex, and I struggled. I have to say, I struggled with finding a red line through the whole year. It's like, what are we doing actually? Like, a lot of times I thought for myself, but that really at the end, or we worked not just at the end, the whole year, but it helped to bind this together, you know, and also identifying terms. So there's a glossary in it, and the most important terms or urgent terms we gave to contributors to explain, and all of them are experts, and that helped incredibly to somehow bring order in this chaos. But yes, it is a bit like a compost. It is like, when you read it from one page, and you might think like, what does this have to do with that? And that's in a compost the same. You know, you mix a lot of weird things together, and a carrot peel with the eggshell, or I don't know, leaves. Or
but can we ask maybe Emmanuel to tell us
yes,
how does a graphic design, like an editor, works with compost? And
because Emmanuel wrote about compost. Yeah, that was your topic, and you have a compost at home. You care for a compost. Maybe you can say something about composts.
Not so sure. I think the idea so you guys said, how can this publication be like compost, which is kind of a complicated thing to think about. But I think there's kind of so I think the publication tries to kind of put two things together, kind of like two cultures together, like the culture of the compost, like putting everything in, and there are some levels to it. No, a compost has kind of 1 to 3 to uncountable kind of levels, and so this is the compost culture we wanted to kind of marry with the kind of publication culture, which means that there is kind of a linearity to it on one hand, but also kind of a transformation of the reader from start to finish. And so this is kind of the themes we ran with making up the publication. So.
And I think it is, as you said, also it helps to digest. It helps to put something together. It helps to get to this part of the compost that is actually then the already worked material, and that is a little bit more one material than the bits and pieces that you add up in the beginning. But for me, the important thing about the publication is that we did what we also do in the exhibition, that we closed it down and opened it up at the same time. So this glossary that you were talking about is not a glossary about answers, but it's again an invitation to others to contribute about their view on certain terms that we are using. And it was a very vivid discussion between us also to say, like, we do not want to have ice cold definitions, or maybe one, but we are not, there is not one answer. And there is not one definition, and so why should we have a glossary with definitions, but we have a glossary with experiences and with knowledge. And these are the bits and pieces and that form our compost that do give an answer. It's not that they are not there, there is an answer, but it's one answer of many. And as we were writing these collective essays with 4 different outcomes, with 4 different imaginations of the belly of the universe, we then still extended it a little bit more and invited others to contribute to a glossary that could be this or another, and yeah, and in a publication you have to end it at some point, and you have to have it then on the table, and that's the good thing about it, that it's then also a piece that you can have in your hand, but it's a piece that shows the open process, and it shows that it's not telling the whole story, it's just telling the whole story until a certain point, and I think we go on with that as well. And talking about this, you were also already mentioning also the public program and the workshop that we are doing in the exhibition. And each and every time that we are doing something here, the room transforms, and the breathing rocks are in different positions. Stinkier. It's getting stinkier. More bacteria come in, some go out. So I don't know, how do you imagine this room transforming still? What do you think this belly of the universe will be like in 1 month or in 2?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting. It's really like tomorrow we will have a workshop called Licking Stones, where we're gonna go deeper into the geology of our body and how we minerally connect to the planet. So we will bring some new new mineral knowledge into the space, which will be one transformation. But over time, the exhibition will also decay and transform. Also, this what we sit on is not just compost; it's also covered in wool felt, which also decays in a way because it's meant to. It's a type of fertilizer that they use in agriculture late on the fields. So this will actually, part of it we will take apart in the end, and we will compost it. Some of the elements that you see here will be grinded into fertilizer. So the entire exhibition is moving and shaping in a way, in a monthly, weekly basis, which is also very exciting for us because a lot of it is planned, but most of it isn't. And we reflect on how the place is changing, how the materials are coming and leaking out of our stones, and how can we go forward with it. But we are also very excited for that, how the sauerkraut is fermenting, and we will want to share it with future visitors. So we're very excited for these new tastes and new smells and new cultures that grow here.
So the question is about the future, right? And when I think about the future, I mean, it's what is so incredible, and what I find the most striking after learning so much, reading so much about this topic about fertilizer and geology and so on, that all these materials which we are living from or made of and use, they are just recycled materials from the past, from long ago. And so you could basically say the bones of a extinct creature, which we don't even maybe hardly know how it looked like, because we just find fossils, so some rocky bones of some creatures, so we don't really know how it looked like. We can make assumptions how it looked like. So those bones turned into material which we eat, and it turns into our body parts. And if you project that into the future, this past into the future, there will be other creatures in the future which we don't even know how they might look like. We don't know what will be there, how big, how small. It's totally speculation, but their bones will consist of our fossils and of what our body was. And so it's one body into another. So we're all melting together somehow. So even if something is extinct, it's in us, and we give it forward to the future. So that's what I think is the future of this belly topic. And yes, the future of the exhibition, Tekla said it already, we will turn it into fertilizer and feed it to the soil and the bacteria.
Yeah, I just want to take a quick trip through deep time. We've started with the phosphorus, which is like our this very ancient mineral, and we end up with compost, which is this very, I mean, it's a very contemporary material, but also I think a very futuristic material, like you have this. You're talking about this narrative of compost. How could society look like when we put the compost in the middle of our society? It's like not when we always tend to do in cities. We put our trash into tiny little bags and we put them into trash bins. Those bins get pushed away from us. We try to hide our remains, the dirt we leave. And how could our future look like if it would be around our compost? I don't know, Veronika, how do you imagine our future living with and also for compost?
Well, it's hard to say it from my perspective because, of course, I have the narrative in my mind when I'm talking about it. Because these breathing rocks, two of these breathing rocks, also have an audio narrative, and one of them is actually centered on this question of a composting pile that is in the center of us, and this notion about what would our recipes look like if we were thinking about the compost pile already, and not about the food that we eat, but more of the remains that we leave. And so I think this is a very interesting way to twist it and to turn it and to imagine a different future. And so also you were in your narrative, you talk about the way the compost becomes a piece of knowledge, and people go to get answers maybe, or to get into conversation. So Sebastian, how do you get into conversation with compost?
Yeah, you can explain this with a nice story of in Budapest, where we live, in the 8th district, which is maybe a progressive district of Budapest, let's say that. But what the district did, quite nice, they hired a guy just to make compost, and he's the compost master of the district. No joke, in Budapest they have that. And he's actually from the USA, but living since 30 years in Budapest. We had conversations, and actually he gave me a lot of inspiration to this narrative as well. His name is Mark, and he's making his compost in a garden, in a climate garden, which is basically an empty plot in the middle of the city, and everyone can bring 2 times per week their compost or their kitchen scraps and feed the communal pile. But he is so strict about how to feed it and how to care for it and what to throw in, and he's giving very detailed instructions. So, for example, when you come with kitchen scraps, he says nothing can be bigger than 6 centimeters. So everything has to be prepared. So and now I am following this instruction. So when I'm at home cooking, I'm chopping my vegetables for my food, but then afterwards I'm chopping my food scraps just to prepare for the compost, that that I do it the right way. So I think he's somehow, which sounds funny, but it's the first step to this future society where we care for our compost. And I think this is not a story of science fiction, but it's like a first step of that could be living together with the compost, or the compost is at the center.
But yeah, that's exactly it. No, you took one more step and you positioned the compost in the center. And when we position the compost in the center, we maybe come back to this image that I said in the beginning, where we were walking in the cold winter air, and the compost gives us heat. So we have a little bit this image about gathering around a compost heap, like we gather around a fire. So to really have the compost heap as a valuable point of gathering, and as a valuable living being that is part of our society, and not just that is a vivid part of it. You want to add to that?
I mean, it's just to that experience to work with Mark, who's also actually the voice of this video. it really becomes a center. I think some of the inspiration for the narrative that we wrote here, which is also part of the book, also comes out of this, because it's an urban compost. So there is much less garden waste. So what people do, they can bring their paper waste also. So, and then there is real strictness on tearing. Like you bring 2 boxes, and then you have to stand there and chop it up and to the right. And then during that you start talking. So you're standing around such a big compost file with 10 other people. Mark is telling you, no, smaller. And then you're just like tearing, and you start talking, you start to get to know people, and it's all sort of a collaborative circle that you start to connect with your neighbors and from the guy from the next street who also brought down there. So it's a lot of this came out of this experience as well.